I'm Jonette Crowley, a channel and author, a spiritual Indiana Jones, and an explorer of the higher states of consciousness. We are all powerful cosmic beings, yet we've forgotten the pathways there. Our reality, your reality, is a reflection of your level of consciousness. So in order to change our reality, we change the way we filter the world, we see the world, we structure the world. So for the past 30 years, I've been working, researching the higher levels of human consciousness. And what we're going to bring you in 20 minutes is a summary of those 30 years of research and a feeling for the steps of the higher dimensions, where we are and where we can be. Our universe is structured according to universal laws. So if we are in a 2D world, it looks a lot like a stick man. But we live in a 3D world, so we can get something artistically beautiful like Michelangelo's David. If we are in a 4D world, we might look more like this: light, aura, frequency, energy. But imagine what our world would be like if we knew ourselves as multidimensional beings, 10th dimension and beyond. Imagine how our reality would change, how our lives would change, how our earth would change. So we are able to upgrade our consciousness. And let's say consciousness, for definition, is the ability or state of our awareness. But consciousness is also the realm of possibilities of which we can be aware. So it's the state of our awareness, and it's what we can perceive. We can train our consciousness, much like we get upgrades in our computer, to process and to understand higher and higher levels of dimensions. We call them dimensions, levels of complexity, levels of scope, levels of possibility, levels of connectivity and oneness. So the higher we go, the more we bring into our lives, our current lives here. So I've been researching higher consciousness since 1989. And I'm really dedicated to changing how our software works so that we can change our reality, and we can also change mass consciousness. Because right now, where we're living isn't as wonderful as we'd love it to be. We can change it. We don't have to wait for it to happen. We change it through the filters that we perceive. So I'm an explorer of consciousness. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mathematician. So we have developed over our 30 years of research a map of the 10 levels so far of consciousness. And so it won't be a physicist or a mathematician's map, but it's what we can find by exploring. So I've worked with thousands of people over the years, and these are succinct, concrete levels that we can get to one level, we can get to the higher one, and each of them build on each other. What that gives us is a different reality. Let's draw over here one way of looking at different frequencies. So imagine here's a lower density, higher frequencies, more happy, more positive. And how our consciousness is set up becomes what our pipe or our chimney looks like. So if we are unaware, which is most of us, our chimney or our pipe might be here. What that means is that all kinds of the collective consciousness that's often negative comes in and impacts our life. But as we move to increase our ability, our awareness, become aware at higher levels, it's as if we're growing our pipe or growing our channel. So now we're in a more rarefied place where the things that can impact us, the things we even see, are positive, high frequency, light. We don't even see the negativity. It can't reach us because our opening, our pipe, is at the higher dimensions. And what we say, and this could be true just in our world, we have people who are happier, people who are not so happy. But the levels of frequency, the levels we can go are infinite. And that changes how we are in the world. It gives us scope everywhere. So these dimensions, as we move up in these dimensions, we have more perspective. We have more scope. We have more choices. We have more connectivity. We have a bigger vessel for joy. So we've been mapping and exploring these levels of dimensions. Why? Because it changes who we are now. These levels are transferable, that we create a quantum field that we can resonate to. And so I've drawn just so we can see why it makes a difference, that as we increase our consciousness, the world changes. So here we are in our little world, and here's our consciousness, and when we're only a small pipe, we only see ourselves as individuals. And then we are competitive. We're in conflict. We just see ourselves as individuals. But as we increase, we move up to dimensions, move up to frequencies, what happens is we get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so our consciousness interconnects with other consciousness. And when we get enough of us, we create a new quantum field. This quantum field enables others to lift up to the higher states that we hold. It helps us lift out of mass consciousness. And I'll draw a picture of what it looks like. So we say lift out of mass consciousness. Here's the earth, our beautiful green earth. And what I've drawn on top of it is the smog of mass consciousness, the heaviness, the density of the world we generally live in. And this is magnetic. It's easy to be stuck here. It's like being stuck in the mud. And what we're doing is poking holes outside of where mass consciousness is, and we say, wait, I see a higher possibility. And so we're stepping out of this, and we're joining others who can poke their way out of mass consciousness and say, I want a different reality. And when enough of us get outside the gravitational pull of mass consciousness, we begin to connect to each other and create this quantum field that is now at a new level for ourselves and for humanity. And when this gets stable, people from the mass consciousness will move here. This will be our new world. And those of us who want to continue to be explorers will be out here waiting to build the next world. So in my 30 years of researching consciousness, I've had a partner. And because I'm studying the non-physical world, it makes sense that my partner is non-physical. So in 1989, as I was sitting meditating, a non-physical voice came to me, and I realized that I could hear it. That I was not just a businesswoman, that I was a channel. I was practicing this newfound skill with my tape recorder. That's why I have Mark's first words. And a being came and told me something in the very first time that I've been following for 30 years, though I didn't know that that would be my path. And I want to read to you what this cosmic being with the name of Mark said when he first came in 1989. Because this is where we are and what we're doing. I am Mark. I've traveled a great distance in terms of energy. I come to bridge a gap between dimensions unknown. My world is on the other side of time, the other side of matter as you know it. I have come to birth new ideas. I've come in response to the thought requests of the world. I am a teacher and a student of the cosmos. And then he left. His energy was so big, the gap between who I was and who this energy was, the pipes were so different that it was overwhelming. It was actually a little frightening. So that's all the longer I could hold this energy. He went away, and I called my more normal guide, White Eagle, to come and explain what had just happened. And these are White Eagle's words, again, back in 1989. You must begin, and he's not just talking to me, he's talking to all of us who follow this path. You must begin awakening to different realities in order to activate the expansion of consciousness that will allow you to know God. The ultimate goal of Mark's work with you is to help mankind evolve to states of harmony, oneness, and the creative infinite energy you call God. The experiences will be powerful. Imagine having a tremendous mystical encounter in which you feel joy, bliss, oneness, and harmony beyond description. When you come back from that, you'll know that a supreme change has taken place. Though you may discount the experience with your words and your logic, you are not the same person and cannot be. Because Mark's energy was so different than mine, I needed to be trained. I needed to learn how to hold those kinds of vibrations. So Mark said, all right, every week, gather together some people. I didn't even know any weird people back then. Now I'm surrounded by all of us who are weird. We're going to meet every week, and we're going to channel Mark. And he had us do these thought experiments. And now we have Mark groups all over the world, and we're all explorers of the higher levels of consciousness. And not for the sake of pure exploration, it's for the sake of evolving ourselves, because we are multidimensional beings, and we've forgotten. So we're following these dimensional steps to remember, and to help humanity remember. So the way Mark teaches us is he holds a field. We call it a higher dimension, a field of knowledge, and we lock onto it. So our consciousness entrains with it. We lock onto it, and then we become that field. We share that consciousness that he's trying to show us. And I'm channeling the words to explain it, but the state gets channeled directly to you. So what it does when we entrain to these higher states is it changes our ability to receive. It expands our bandwidth. So something that we couldn't even notice before becomes recognizable, then familiar, and then we can't live without it. And those things that we are familiarizing ourselves with are forgotten parts of our higher selves, forgotten parts of the abilities, the skills, the magnificence that humans were born to remember, born to have. So we have these states of consciousness, these states of dimensions. And I think before I started experiencing this, I believed that there was just oneness. You were here in 3D world, and then you went up to bliss and oneness, and that's where we hung out in our meditations. And what I realize now is it's not an amorphous state of oneness. There are succinct hierarchical levels that each have their own function. No dimension's better than another. The higher dimensions are more encompassing of the lower ones. So anything that you can do at a lower dimension is easy at a higher dimension. It takes no effort. It's as if there's no gravity there. So we've been learning this, and the reason that we're doing this talk is after 30 years, we have worked our way up to the 10th dimension. The 10th dimension is called relativity. It is so different than where we live. And in order to move us, humanity, along, each of us individually, we need people who can hold those higher spaces. And so we've designed this program so that we can go step by step in these dimensions, understanding them, experiencing them, encompassing them, actualizing them, and then being our multidimensional self. And why is this important and why now? Because we're not mystics. We're just ordinary people. Mark showed it to me this way, so I understand. Why us, why now? This is the number of people who are on this is a number of people, and this is levels of consciousness. So generally, we're going to say that the bell curve of humanity is here. Consciousness might not be all that high. And way out here are the mystics and the masters who've lived in their caves and mountaintops and have held the space of high consciousness, knowing that someday we would find it. And so the someday happened, and some of us felt that pull from these masters and mystics, and we've been kind of up here at the leading edge of the bell curve. We're more connected to the bulk of humanity, but we're not way out there. And what's happening when enough of us get here on this leading edge of awareness, of possibilities, the whole curve begins to move. And so we're in this tipping point right now where there's movement. Now, we don't always feel it when we watch television or read the news, but as a mystic, I can tap into consciousness and I see that it has moved. It hasn't percolated down here. We don't see that reality yet, but the reality is here. And so I'm committed to helping us as a collective, you as individuals, find our place to embody our multidimensional nature so that we can be this extraordinary humans in an extraordinary world and live the way we were meant to be. So I'd like to read something that Mark has recently channeled. And he was talking about changing the context of humanity. He was talking about this in our 10th dimension. And this is what he said about where we are right now. More than ever before, the future is unwritten. The prophecies from the old times do not hold true now. They were true when the prophecies were formed because time was still linear then. Although most people still experience linear time, it begins to break down when there's a critical mass of people, you, ordinary people, who span dimensions. There have always been mystics and masters who've held the space of these high dimensions, but until now, the high dimensions were uninhabited by ordinary mortals. You can create tremendous change on the planet because you are living ordinary lives, yet you span the immortal, infinite dimensions. You open doors and keep them open. The level of empowerment you will experience is unprecedented. It's important that you don't hold yourself to any past standards of what you can or cannot do. If something comes to your mind, do it. Like the miraculous ones who no longer need to perform miracles, one who is empowered to do things doesn't actually have to do them. It's the power that you're holding that is everything. When you feel that multidimensional power, you will notice that you are not singular. You are a holographic portal that is not time-space based. This is the change. When you no longer have this dimension as your only address, then you are free. you realize that you are not who you always thought you were. So I invite you to join us on this exploration where we enhance our capabilities, we move through dimensions, we embody our multidimensional nature. Why? Because we're a bigger vessel for joy, because there is no worry in those dimensions of the universe. There is no struggle. There is peace beyond comprehension, and we do have access to it now. So thank you for being willing to explore these higher dimensions and to seek for yourself your multidimensional nature. Thank you.